The lake behind my house had always been the quiet heart of my life. It wasn't large, just a calm oval of blue surrounded by pine trees and cattails, but it was mine. I bought this property 15 years ago, when my wife was still alive, and together we built a little dock that reached just far enough into the water to fish at sunset. Since she passed, I kept the same old chair on that dock. Every morning, I'd bring a cup of coffee, sit there, and let the water reflect the early sun. That lake, silent and patient, became the only place where the world made sense. But lately, peace had been hard to find. A few months ago, the neighborhood association, the HOA, as everyone called it, elected a new president. Her name was Patricia Gorman, and she had the kind of smile that didn't reach her eyes. She liked order, rules, and appearances. She said our community was an exclusive lakeside development, and she wanted it to look like one. Fishing, she said, didn't fit the image. At first, I laughed. How could a man sitting quietly on a dock ruin anyone's image? But the HOA began to complain. Letters, meetings, and warnings appeared in my mailbox. They claimed I was disturbing wildlife and creating an eyesore. I didn't argue. I'd seen enough people like Patricia to know that arguing only made them dig in deeper. So, I kept fishing quietly, early in the mornings or late at night, when no one else was around. But then, one morning in early May, I noticed something strange. The lake's surface had changed. It wasn't the clear, greenish blue I loved. It was cloudy, almost milky, with a faint chemical smell that made my throat burn. Dead fish floated near the reeds, and a slick rainbow shimmer spread across the water's surface. I knelt at the edge, touched the water, and instantly felt my fingers itch. Something was terribly wrong. That night, I called the county environmental office. They promised to send someone to take samples. I didn't tell the HOA. I knew better. 2 days later, an inspector named Leo showed up. He was a young man with mud on his boots and a tired but kind face. He filled a few bottles, looked around, and said quietly, "Smells like herbicide, maybe algicide, but this concentration seems way too high." He promised to call me when the results came in. The next week, I went to the monthly HOA meeting. The air was thick with perfume and polite hostility. Patricia sat at the center table like a queen at court. "Mr. Harris," she said, smiling too sweetly, "we've received complaints about the condition of the lake. I understand you've contacted the county." "Yes," I said. "Something's killing the fish." Patricia's smile froze. "I see. Well, our maintenance team applied a treatment recently, an algicide, to improve water clarity. It's perfectly safe." "Safe?" I asked. "The fish are dying." She shrugged. "Sometimes nature adjusts." The room was silent. My neighbors shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Most of them didn't care about the lake. They cared about their lawns, their fences, and their property values. I left early. That night, I sat on my dock again. The air smelled sour. The frogs were gone, and even the crickets were quiet. It felt like grief, like losing something alive. A few days later, Leo called. His voice was grim. "They dumped way too much algicide," he said. "Toxic levels, high enough to make the water unsafe for human use. I've filed a report, but you said this is a private HOA lake." "Yes." He sighed. "Then it's tricky. Private property. But tell me, where does your neighborhood get its water supply?" I frowned. "From the well system, groundwater pumped from beneath the lake." There was a long pause. Then he said, "Then they just poisoned their own drinking water." I didn't know what to say. The next week, everything began to unravel. The HOA sent another letter, accusing me of sabotaging community image and inviting government interference. They even fined me for unauthorized contact with county officials. I ignored it. But by late June, the complaints started, not from me this time, but from the residents themselves. Children got rashes after swimming. A few people reported nausea. Patricia herself called an emergency meeting after several families said their tap water smelled strange. When the environmental results became public, chaos followed. The algicide had leached into the groundwater. The community's entire well system was contaminated. For the first time, Patricia's confident voice trembled. She stood in front of everyone in the meeting hall and said, "We may need to arrange bottled water delivery for the next few months. The cleanup process is complicated." I sat in the back row, silent. Nobody looked at me. They knew. In the weeks that followed, trucks rolled in and out, drilling new test wells, installing filters, and delivering water barrels. The once perfect lawns turned brown as irrigation was banned. The lake, once a mirror of peace, was fenced off with warning signs. No swimming. No fishing. Toxic water. Sometimes, I'd stand behind the fence at dawn, looking through the mesh. The water was dull now, lifeless, reflecting nothing but gray skies. One afternoon, as I was collecting mail, Patricia approached me. She looked older, the kind of older that comes not from years, but from guilt. "Mr. Harris," she said quietly, "I owe you an apology." I said nothing. She swallowed hard. We were just cleaning it. I didn't realize how connected it all was. The groundwater, the lake, everything. We didn't mean to. Her voice broke. For the first time, I saw not arrogance, but shame. I sighed. That lake was alive, I said. It took years to grow balanced. You can't fix that with a chemical. She nodded, eyes down. I know. The county's helping us. They say the ecosystem might recover in time. In time, I repeated softly. That evening, I walked to the fence again. The sun was low, turning the water the color of bronze. The dead reeds rustled, and for a brief second, I thought I heard a frog, just one faint croak from somewhere near the bank. It felt like hope. Over the next few months, the cleanup crews worked tirelessly. They drained part of the lake, flushed the wells, and replanted native grasses. Slowly, the water began to clear. Birds returned, herons first, then ducks. One morning, as I sat on the dock that now jutted into half-drained mud, Leo appeared again. He smiled. "It's healing," he said. "Nature's tough." I nodded. "So are the people who love it." He laughed softly. "You know, they should put you in charge of that HOA." I smiled. "No, thank you. I prefer the company of fish." By autumn, the fence came down. The HOA, under new leadership, had learned its lesson, painfully and publicly. Patricia resigned quietly and moved away. The new board invited residents to a lake restoration day, encouraging everyone to help plant trees and restore the shoreline. I joined them, not for them, but for the lake. As I pushed the last sapling into the damp soil, I felt something shift, not just in the ground, but in me. For the first time in years, I didn't feel angry. The next morning, I carried my old fishing chair to the dock. The air was cool, the sky pale blue. The lake, though still scarred, shimmered with new life. Small fish flickered near the shallows, and dragonflies darted above the reeds. I cast my line and watched the ripples spread. Behind me, I heard footsteps, a few of the neighbors, quietly watching. One of them, a young man I'd barely spoken to before, said softly, "Mind if I try too?" I nodded. "The lake's big enough for both of us." He smiled and sat beside me. For a long time, we fished in silence. No HOA rules, no arguments, just two people, and a lake that had almost been lost. The wind carried the faint scent of pine, and in the distance, the water sparkled like it used to, calm, forgiving, alive. Sometimes, when I close my eyes, I think about how easy it is to destroy something precious, and how much patience it takes to bring it back. The lake taught them all that lesson. And maybe, in its quiet way, it taught me too, that healing doesn't come from anger or punishment. It comes from care, from time, from listening to the water until it forgives you. I reeled in my line, smiled at the young man, and said, "Let's keep it this way." The lake rippled gently, as if agreeing. And for the first time in years, I felt that old peace return, slow, deep, and endless.